You tell yourself the world is governed by chaos and chance. It's a comforting thought. But if you look closer, our reality seems less like a roulette wheel and more like shoddy code written by a lazy programmer who just started copy-pasting textures. When a bullet waits 20 years for its victim inside a tree and a taxi driver runs over two brothers on the same moped a year apart, statistics quietly leaves the chat, slamming the door. These aren't amazing coincidences. They're evidence in a criminal case against common sense. Today, we're going to break down 33 system glitches, from the Curse of Tamerlane to cartoon prophecies, things that prove the script of your life was written on the back of a napkin. Let's start debugging. Fact number 1. Soviet archaeologists, a kind of Indiana Jones with a party membership card, open the tomb of Tamerlane. June 20th, 1941. The air is thick with the dust of centuries and the anticipation of a scientific breakthrough. There's an inscription on the tombstone, not "no parking," but something a bit more interesting. Whoever opens this tomb shall unleash a spirit of war. Sounds like the tagline for a cheap horror movie. The men of science, of course, had a laugh. They were materialists. They believed in atoms, not curses. They opened the sarcophagus. And 2 days later, as if on some invisible cue, Hitler invaded the USSR. The universe didn't even bother with subtle hints. It just hung a "beware of dog" sign on the door. But we, as always, decided we knew how to read. It turned out that ancient marketers were far more honest than modern ones. At least they wrote the truth on the packaging. Fact number 2. 14 years before the whole world learned the word Titanic, a writer named Morgan Robertson sat at his desk. He was writing a novel. Not about love, but about a giant ship called the Titan. This fictional liner was considered absolutely unsinkable, the pinnacle of engineering, the pride of humanity. In the book, this Titan collides with an iceberg in the North Atlantic, and it has a catastrophic shortage of lifeboats for all the passengers. Sound familiar? When the real Titanic went down, Robertson's book transformed from a pulp novel into a chilling prophecy. This is one of those cases where a spoiler could have saved 1,500 lives. The universe didn't just drop a hint, it gave us a full synopsis of the coming disaster. But we were too busy admiring the size of the ship. As they say, size does matter, especially when it comes to the iceberg. Fact number 3. Meet Violet Jessup. You could call this woman a disaster magnet, or the luckiest person in history. She worked as a stewardess on ocean liners, and not just any old rust buckets, but the Olympic-class sister ships. First, she was aboard the Olympic. When it collided with a cruiser, everyone was fine. Then she got a job on the Titanic. I think you know how that ended. She survived. After that, apparently deciding that lightning doesn't strike the same place twice, she went to work on the Britannic, the third sister ship. During World War I, it hit a mine. And guess what? Violet survived again. This woman lived through 3 of history's most famous shipwrecks. She was like that unkillable character in a horror movie who makes it to the final credits. After a career path like that, an interview with any other shipping line would have seemed like a sick joke. Fact number 4. King Umberto I of Italy once went into a small restaurant for dinner, and he was stunned. The owner of the establishment was his exact double, a spitting image like a long-lost twin from a Bollywood movie. One thing led to another, and the details emerged. They were born in the same town. On the same day, both were named Umberto. Their wives were both named Margarita. They both opened their businesses on the very same day. The universe apparently decided to save time on character development and just copied one. But that's not the end. The next day, the restaurant owner was shot and killed on the street under mysterious circumstances. When the king was informed, he was in shock. But the shock didn't last long. Just a few hours later, he himself was assassinated by an anarchist. It's like some kind of bug in the Matrix. When the system deletes one file, it automatically deletes the backup copy too, just to keep things tidy. Fact number 5. Edgar Allan Poe. A dark genius, a master of horror, and, as it turns out, a full-time prophet of the apocalypse. In his only completed novel, he described the story of a shipwreck. 4 surviving sailors are adrift in a boat. The food has run out, and they decide to eat the cabin boy. To be fair, they draw straws, and the short straw falls to a cabin boy named Richard Parker. A gruesome story, but it's just fiction, right? Not quite. 46 years after the book was published, a real ship sank at sea. And again, there were 4 survivors. And again, cannibalism for the sake of survival. And again, they ate the youngest member, the cabin boy, whose name, you guessed it, was Richard Parker. This is no longer a coincidence. This is some kind of sick joke from a higher power. As if someone read the book and thought, why not? Great script. Let's make it a movie. Fact number 6. The story of a very, very patient bullet. A man named Henry Ziegland broke up with his girlfriend. A classic story. The girl, unable to handle the drama, took her own life. Also, sadly, a classic. Her grief-stricken brother decided to get revenge. He ambushed Henry and shot at him. But the bullet only grazed his face and got lodged in the trunk of a tree. The brother, thinking the job was done, then shot himself. 20 years passed. Henry Ziegland, having long forgotten the incident, decided to get rid of the old tree. But he was too lazy to cut it down, so he decided to blow it up with dynamite. The massive explosion blew the tree to smithereens, and that same bullet, which had been waiting for its moment for 20 years, flew out of the trunk and killed Henry instantly. This isn't just irony, it's a comic sniper rifle, a shot with a 20-year delay. The Terminator would give a standing ovation. Fact number 7. Hollywood screenwriters love the plot of separated twins. But reality, as usual, outdid their twisted fantasies. 2 infants are separated at birth. Both adoptive families, without consulting each other, named them Jim. That's already funny. But wait, this is just the beginning of this comedy of the absurd. Both Jims become police officers. Both marry women named Linda, both get divorced, both marry for a second time to women named Betty, both have sons, and they both name them James Allen. They even had identical dogs named Toy. We spend years searching for our uniqueness, we go to therapists, we get stupid tattoos, and here are 2 guys living the exact same script, as if someone just hit copy-paste on a human life. Our whole struggle for individuality is just a bug in the system. Somewhere in the celestial bureaucracy, an angel is laughing his head off, comparing their files. Fact number 8. The actor Anthony Hopkins was preparing for a role. He needed a rare book. The Girl from Petrovka. He searched every bookstore in London. The book was nowhere to be found. The print run had sold out long ago. Disappointed, he headed home on the tube. At the station, he saw a book someone had left on a bench. You've already guessed, haven't you? It was The Girl from Petrovka. Hopkins probably thought it was a sign from above, but the most interesting part was waiting for him inside. The book was filled with notes in the margins. Sometime later, when the actor met the author of the book, the author complained. He said he had his own copy filled with edits, but he had lent it to a friend who lost it somewhere in London. It was that very book. The universe didn't just help an actor, it acted as the perfect courier service, delivered in person, right on time. Not even Amazon can do that. Fact number 9. Remember your history lessons? A shot in Sarajevo. Archduke Franz Ferdinand is assassinated. World War I begins. Boring. But the devil, as always, is in the details. The car the Archduke was riding in had a license plate. It read A3118. Seems like just a set of characters. But let's look at the date the war ended. November 11th, 1918. That is November 11th, 18, A3118. The universe wrote the end date of the war right on the car where it all started. It's like a Christopher Nolan movie. The answer was in plain sight from the very beginning, but no one paid attention. We were too busy focusing on the assassination itself. We should have been looking at the license plate. Fact number 10. The animated series, The Simpsons, has long since stopped being just a cartoon. It's some kind of prediction agency. In the year 2000, they released an episode where Donald Trump becomes president of the United States. Back then, it seemed like an absurd joke, something on the level of flying cars and colonies on Mars. But the creators went further. They showed a scene where Trump descends an escalator surrounded by his supporters. 15 years later, the real Donald Trump announces his candidacy, and he descends an escalator, recreating the scene from the cartoon, frame by frame. This is the moment when reality stops being original and just starts shamelessly plagiarizing old sitcoms. The writers of The Simpsons probably aren't even surprised anymore. They just sit back and wait to see which of their gags the universe will decide to bring to life next. Fact number 11. The parallels between Lincoln and Kennedy are a classic of the genre, the cherry on top of the world's absurdity cake. Lincoln was elected to Congress in 1846, Kennedy in 1946. Lincoln became president in 1860, Kennedy in 1960. A difference of exactly 100 years. Both were killed by a shot to the head on a Friday, in the presence of their wives. But those are just the appetizers. Lincoln's successor was a vice president named Johnson. Kennedy's successor was also a Johnson. Lincoln had a personal secretary named Kennedy. Kennedy had a secretary named Lincoln. This looks like some kind of system failure, as if history is a computer program that runs the same script every 100 years with minor changes, and we are just extras in this endless cycle. Is your brain starting to melt yet? Can you feel the floor of your cozy, predictable reality shifting beneath your feet? It feels like you're the star of The Truman Show, and some crazy director keeps throwing more and more idiotic plot twists at you. Don't worry. It's a normal reaction. It means you're still capable of critical thinking. Most people will just wave it away, say, things happen. But you and I know better. It's not things happen. It's the system, a system that loves dark humor. And now we're getting to its favorite jokes. Buckle up. It's only going to get crazier from here. Fact number 12. The writer Mark Twain was a man with an excellent sense of humor, even when it came to his own life and death. He was born in 1835. On the very day that Halley's Comet passed by the Earth. He often joked about it. He'd say, "I came in with the comet and I'll go out with it." It sounded like a great line for his biography. No one took it seriously, except, apparently, the universe itself. Halley's Comet returns to Earth every 76 years, and in 1910 it appeared in the sky once more. And it was in that very year that Mark Twain died. He went out with the comet, to the day. He didn't just predict his own death. He coordinated it with the schedule of celestial bodies. That's the most punctual departure in history. Even a Swiss watch would be envious of that precision. Fact number 13. The Menai Strait in Wales is a place with a bad reputation. Ships were constantly sinking there. But there's one strange pattern. On December 5th, 1660, a ship sank there. Only one person survived. His name was Hugh Williams. On December 5th, 1785, another ship sank there. And again, only one passenger survived. His name was Hugh Williams. In 1820, a vessel capsized in the same strait. Everyone went down, except for one lucky person. Guess his name? Hugh Williams. This isn't statistics anymore. It's some kind of divine cheat code, as if the name Hugh Williams comes with a built-in subscription for rescue in the Menai Strait. If you're planning on sailing there, change your passport immediately, or at least bring a guy with that name on the boat, just in case. Fact number 14. London Brook Street, two neighboring houses, number 23 and number 25. In house number 25 lived the great Baroque composer George Frideric Handel. He wrote his immortal oratorios there. 200 years later, another genius moved into the house next door, number 23, Jimi Hendrix, a rock legend, a guitarist who changed music forever. A classical genius and a rock genius lived literally a wall apart, just with a slight 200-year time difference. It's like a realtor's joke. Great neighborhood, quiet neighbors. True, one of them has been dead for 200 years, but at least he doesn't make noise at night. Imagine if they could have met. What kind of album would they have recorded together? Probably something that would have made all of humanity's brains explode. Fact number 15. Shortly before his assassination, Abraham Lincoln told his friends a story. His son, Robert, had a near-death experience. He was standing on a train platform when the crowd pushed him, and he started to fall onto the tracks, right in front of an oncoming train. At the last second, a strong hand grabbed him by the collar and pulled him back. His rescuer was the famous actor Edwin Booth. And now, get this. Edwin Booth was the brother of John Wilkes Booth, the very man who a few months later would assassinate President Lincoln. One brother saves the president's son from an accidental death. The other brother condemns the president himself to a deliberate one. It's like a Shakespearean drama played out in real life. The Booth family first gave Lincoln the life of his son, and then took his own. The balance of the universe was maintained. Fact number 16. The battlefields of World War I are dotted with graves, millions of nameless crosses. But there is one place that stands out. In the Saint-Symphorien military cemetery in Belgium, there are two graves. In one lies John Parr, the first British soldier to die in the war. In the other, George Ellison, the last British soldier to fall in the conflict. Their graves are directly opposite each other, just 6 meters apart. And this wasn't done on purpose. It was pure chance. The military simply buried the bodies where they were found. The alpha and the omega of the bloodiest war of its time, gazing at each other through eternity. It is a symmetry so perfect and tragic that it seems as if it were directed by some brilliant and very cruel artist. Fact number 17. Meet Tsutomu Yamaguchi, a man who stared into the face of the nuclear apocalypse twice and survived. He was on a business trip in Hiroshima on August 6, 1945, when the atomic bomb was dropped on the city. He suffered burns, but he survived. After that, like any normal person, he decided to go home, and he lived in the city of Nagasaki. On August 9th, he went to work to tell his boss what he had seen in Hiroshima. And at that exact moment, the second atomic bomb was dropped on Nagasaki. He survived again. This man lived through 2 nuclear explosions in 3 days. It's like he won the lottery twice in a row. Except the prize was a ticket to the end of the world. He lived to be 93 years old. Apparently, after all that, the universe decided he'd had enough and left him alone. Fact number 18. The American writer Anne Parrish adored a book from her childhood. She had lost it long ago, but the memory of it remained. One day, while strolling through Paris, she went into a second-hand bookstore, and on one of the shelves, she saw that very book, the exact same edition. Delighted, she opened it, and on the first page she saw an inscription. Anne Parrish, 209 North Weber Street. It wasn't just a similar book, it was her own book, the very one she had lost many years ago in America. The book had crossed the Atlantic Ocean and was waiting for her in a random shop in Paris. It's like a plot from a Disney cartoon. Only instead of talking animals, it's an inanimate object with an incredible sense of attachment. Your dog can't do that, but a book did. Fact number 19, May 1944. The Allies are preparing for the Normandy landings. Secrecy is at its maximum. Any leak means the failure of the entire operation. And then, in the British newspaper, the Daily Telegraph, crossword puzzles start appearing, and in them, one after another, the answers appear. Utah, Omaha, Neptune, Overlord. These are the code names for all the key stages of the operation. The British Counterintelligence Agency, MI5, wasn't just in a panic. They were horrified. They arrested the creator of the crosswords. It turned out to be an elderly school teacher. They interrogated him for days. But it turned out he was completely innocent. All the words were pure coincidence. He just made them up. This is a case of someone accidentally guessing the password to the nuclear briefcase. The intelligence officers must have gone gray overnight, and the teacher just shrugged. Fact number 20. Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, 2 of the founding fathers of the USA. They were friends. Then they became political enemies. Then they reconciled again in their old age. Their story is the story of America in miniature, but the end of their lives is something beyond belief. They both died on the same day, July 4th, 1826, exactly on the 50th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. The very document they created together, it's so symbolic it feels staged, as if history decided their earthly mission was complete, and it took them both on the most appropriate day possible. Adams' last words were, "Thomas Jefferson survives." He didn't know that Jefferson had died a few hours earlier. Even in death, they were neck and neck. Fact number 21. Detroit, the 1930s. A janitor named Joseph Figlock was calmly walking down the street. Suddenly, a baby fell on him from above. The toddler had fallen from a fourth-floor window. The impact broke the baby's fall, and both survived. A miracle, you say? Just wait. Exactly 1 year passed. Joseph Figlock was walking down the very same street, and from the very same window, the very same baby fell on him again. And again, both were unharmed. This man saved the same child twice just by being in the right place at the right time. After the second time, the parents probably should have put bars on the windows, and Joseph should have changed his route, or started wearing a helmet. This guy wasn't just a janitor, he was a part-time guardian angel. Fact number 22. In the movie Bruce Almighty, there's a scene where God gives the main character his phone number. The filmmakers decided to use a real number. They thought it didn't exist. They were wrong. The number belonged to a woman in a small town, and after the movie was released, her phone started ringing off the hook. Thousands of people were calling to talk to God, but the funniest part of this story is the woman's name. She was called Dawn. Just like the character in the movie that Jim Carrey's character was talking to. The universe didn't just play a prank on the filmmakers. It did it with style. It matched not only the number, but the name as well. It's like the perfect punchline to a joke that no one wrote. Are you still here? Congratulations, you have nerves of steel. Or you just like to watch the world burn? I don't blame you. It's a mesmerizing spectacle. We've already established that logic is just a polite recommendation that the universe ignores. It prefers improvisation, and its improvisations sometimes look like a script written by an artificial intelligence on illegal substances. But don't relax. We're only halfway through. Ahead of us are reincarnations, prophecies, and a taxi that works for death itself. Ready? Then let's go. Fact number 23. Enzo Ferrari, the legendary creator of the automotive empire. He died in August of 1988, and just a month later, the German soccer player Mesut Özil was born. And if you put their photos side by side, you'll see what I mean. They look like two peas in a pod. Not just similar, they are identical. The same eyes, the same nose, the same face shape. It's as if someone took the soul of the old Italian and put it into the body of a newborn German boy. The theory of reincarnation has never looked so convincing. Maybe in a past life, Ozil designed racing cars, and in this one, he decided to switch to making assists. In any case, somewhere in the world, there's a very lazy character designer, and he clearly works for the universe. Fact number 24. Stephen Hawking, one of the greatest minds in human history, the man who explained black holes to us. But his own life was full of strange cosmic rhymes. He was born on January 8, 1942, exactly on the 300th anniversary of the death of Galileo Galilei, another genius who changed our understanding of the cosmos. And Hawking died on March 14, 2018, on Albert Einstein's birthday. This day is also known as Pi Day. 3/14, born on the day of one titan's death, died on the day of another's birth. It's as if the universe drew an invisible line connecting the three greatest physicists into one perfect time loop. It is the most elegant joke in the history of science. Fact number 25. The Hoover Dam. A monumental structure, a symbol of America's industrial might. Thousands of people built it, and unfortunately there were casualties. The first worker to die during its construction was a surveyor named George Tierney. It happened on December 20th, 1922. Construction went on for many years, and the last person to die on this project was his own son, Patrick Tierney. He died exactly 13 years later, To the day. On December 20th, 1935, the father started the tragic list, the son closed it. The history of this dam began and ended with the same family. It's like a grim fairy tale about how some projects require not just money and concrete, but human destinies. Fact number 26. History loves to repeat itself. First as tragedy, then as farce. And sometimes just as a carbon copy. Let's compare two dictators. Napoleon came to power in 1799. Hitler in 1933. A difference of 134 years. Napoleon was born in 1760. He came to power when he was 39. Hitler was born in 1889. He became chancellor at 44. Napoleon invaded Russia in 1812, 13 years after coming to power. Hitler invaded the USSR in 1941, 8 years after. Here the numbers don't quite line up, but the overall pattern is frighteningly similar. Two ambitious leaders who decided they could conquer the world, and both broke their teeth on the same country. History doesn't just repeat itself, it mocks us. Fact number 27. The Bermuda Islands. A place where plenty of strange things happen anyway. But this story stands out even against the backdrop of disappearing airplanes. In 1975, a taxi fatally hit a man riding a moped. A tragic accident. But a year passed, and the same taxi with the same driver and with the same passenger inside on the same street fatally hit the brother of the man who had died, who was riding the very same moped. Read that again, slowly. All the variables except for the victim were identical. This taxi didn't work for a local company. It worked for fate itself, and it was carrying out a very specific order. Apparently, there was some kind of mistake the first time, and the car had to be sent back to finish the job. Fact number 28. We've already talked about The Simpsons, but it turns out Trump was predicted even earlier. In the 1890s, a writer named Ingersoll Lockwood wrote a series of children's books. The main character was named Baron Trump. He was a wealthy boy who lived in a huge building called Trump Tower. He had a wise mentor named Dawn, and he went on a journey to Russia. Now let's fast forward over 100 years. The real president of the United States is named Donald Trump. His youngest son is named Baron. He lives in Trump Tower, and he had, let's say, certain connections with Russia. This is no longer a prediction. It's a detailed business plan, written 100 years before its implementation. Maybe we're all living in a 19th century novel. It's just that the cover has gotten worn out. Fact number 29. In the 1900s, in Texas, an actor named Charles Coughlin died. He was buried in a lead casket. A few years later, a powerful hurricane hit the coast. It washed away the cemetery, and the coffin with the actor's body was carried out into the Gulf of Mexico. 7 years passed. The residents of Prince Edward Island up north in Canada discovered a strange box on the shore. It was the same coffin. In 7 years, it had traveled more than 3,000 kilometers across the entire ocean, and it washed ashore right in front of the house where Charles Coughlin was born and raised. This is the most determined posthumous delivery in history. He literally returned home. Apparently, he just didn't like the climate in Texas and decided to go on one last journey. Fact number 30. The Wild West, 1858. A saloon, poker, whiskey. A man named Robert Fallon wins $600. He's accused of cheating. An argument starts. A shootout ensues. Fallon is killed. His seat at the table is empty. The other players find a new partner. They give him the dead man's unlucky $600, and he starts playing, and turns that $600 into $2,200. When the sheriff arrived to investigate the murder, he asked for the lucky winner's name. It turned out to be Robert Fallon's son. He hadn't seen his father in 7 years, and had arrived in town just an hour ago. He didn't just avenge his father. He did it with his own money. This is a plot for a Western that Tarantino hasn't made yet. Fact number 31. There are unlucky places. And then there are unlucky gender roles. In the English Channel, in 1664, a ship sank. All the men drowned, only one woman survived. In 1785, in the same channel, another ship went down, and again, only one female passenger was saved. In 1860, the story repeated for a third time. A shipwreck, everyone died, except for one woman. 3 different centuries, 3 different ships, 3 different disasters, and the same result. It's as if this strait has some strange code of honor. It sinks everyone without distinction, but always leaves one woman, so she can tell the story of what happened. Or maybe just to annoy the feminists. Fact number 32. We've already talked about the book that predicted the sinking of the Titanic, but there was another man who knew it all in advance. The journalist, William Stead. Several years before the disaster, he wrote a short story. In it, he described how a huge steamship sinks in the Atlantic after a collision, and the main problem is that there aren't enough lifeboats for everyone. He ended his story with prophetic words. This is exactly what will happen if you continue to send ships to sea with an insufficient number of lifeboats. A few years later, William Stead himself was a passenger on board the Titanic. He died along with 1,500 other people. Because there weren't enough lifeboats for everyone, he wrote the script for his own death, and the universe made him play the leading role. Fact number 33. Sometimes the entire course of world history can depend on a single sandwich. Gavrilo Princip, a Serbian nationalist, was part of a group planning to assassinate Archduke Ferdinand. Their first attempt failed. A bomb exploded in the wrong place. The plan was ruined. A frustrated Princip decided that was enough for one day. He gave up on the idea and went to a nearby cafe to eat a sandwich. At that very same moment, the Archduke's driver got lost in the narrow streets of Sarajevo. He decided to turn around and stopped the car right next to the cafe where Princip was sitting, right in front of him. The assassin couldn't believe his luck. He simply got up from his table and fired 2 shots. And that's how World War I began. Not because of politics, but because one guy went to get a bite to eat and another guy took a wrong turn. So what's the bottom line? The world is not a well-oiled machine. It's a chaotic collection of coincidences. It's a stage where a lazy screenwriter repeats the same plots over and over, just changing the names and dates. We try to find logic in it. We build theories. We pray to gods. But in reality, we are just pawns in a giant board game. The player is a mad genius with a dark sense of humor. He doesn't want us to win. He wants the show to be interesting. And you have to admit, he puts on one hell of a show. So next time something strange happens to you, don't be surprised. Just smile and give the director a round of applause. He'll appreciate it. And now, I'll add one more. A 34th fact. A fact you didn't ask for. The biggest coincidence of all is that you watched this to the end. And now you know the truth. And knowledge, as they say, is power or paranoia. It all depends on your luck.